All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the third part of the show, talk about a couple of Raiders, talk about Davante Adams as well as Maxx Crosby. So a couple guys, well, one guy on the offensive side of the ball, one guy on the defensive side of the ball. Well, the two best players on their respective sides of the ball for this team. So with Davante Adams, so he's committed to the Raiders. So I know a lot of speculation with him on, well, at least during the season, with him maybe wanting to get out of Vegas because of what was going on. I mean, the Raiders got off to a bad start. You know, Jimmy Garoppolo wasn't playing well, and Josh McDaniels just clearly was not the guy to be the head coach for the team. And I think a lot of people knew that when he was hired. And yeah, so he basically said recently, if I wanted to be gone, I'd be gone now. This is where I want to be. Davante Adams signed that big contract in 2022, a 5-year, $140 million deal. So he's committed to the team. And now, with both of these players, they were advocating for the Raiders to keep Antonio Pierce as the head coach. And that is what ended up happening, which I think was the right decision for them. And let's see what they do in 2024. But Davante Adams has been productive with the Raiders, even with the question marks at quarterback. Obviously, he did want to come to the Raiders to play with Derek Carr, but that only lasted for a season. Then you had Garoppolo and AidanO'Connell playing quarterback for the Raiders. Also Brian Hoyer as well. So, yeah, it was kind of a quarterback carousel in 2023. But AidanO'Connell was the best out of the three. Now, again, was he great? No, but, you know, they won some games with him. They won that game on Christmas, albeit, you know, they didn't complete a pass after the first quarter, but they still won that game. So he managed the game well. And yeah, Davante Adams, again, has been productive with the Raiders. In 2023, he had over 1,000 yards. He had 8 touchdowns. And again, this is with the quarterback carousel on the Raiders last year. So Davante Adams is one of those receivers that he could still produce even if they don't have a star quarterback. Now, again, I wish him and Aaron Rodgers were still playing together because, for me, with Aaron Rodgers, Davante Adams was the best receiver in the NFL. But now it's kind of Justin Jefferson's time. But, you know, now we'll see what happens in 2024, what the Raiders do. Obviously, they did bring in Gardner Minshew in the offseason. Now, we'll see what the Raiders do with the draft themselves because, again, I don't think Gardner Minshew or AidanO'Connell are the long-term answers at quarterback. I think bringing in Gardner Minshew was smart because arguably he's the best backup quarterback in the NFL, and he played well for the Colts last season. And the Colts, they had a chance to make the playoffs. They were right there, and unfortunately they lost a tough game to the Texans. And, yeah, so now he's on the Raiders. But, I think that was a good move for the Raiders. But Davante Adams appears to trust the Raiders organization to find a reliable quarterback regardless of the direction they choose to take. I mean, they should draft a quarterback. Like I said, I don't think you're going into 2024 with Gardner Minshew and AidanO'Connell. I think that there's another move that is going to be made, and that is going to be through the draft. Now, maybe they see somebody they like and they trade up for him. So we'll keep an eye on it. But, you know, I think the Raiders, offensively, they're a good situation for a young quarterback to step into because you have Davante Adams, you have Jacoby Myers, you got Michael Mayer going into his second season, Trey Tucker going into his second season, and he showed flashes in 2024. So, and then, of course, well, they did lose Josh Jacobs, but Zamir White did a nice job running the football for them in his absence. So, like that situation. And again, it's for some people you might find it odd of me saying that. And again, there's other teams that I've said, that this is a good situation because, you know, the lack of success for some teams. And now you're saying, well, it's a good situation. The Raiders, I think, is a good situation because of the playmakers you got. And I think Antonio Pierce is going to turn this team around. Now, I don't expect this team to make the playoffs in 2024. But, again, they won 8 games last year. And at one point you thought, they were going to finish with one of the worst records in the NFL. But they pulled the plug on Josh McDaniels. They pulled the plug on Garoppolo. And Antonio Pierce stepped in, did a nice job, really changed the culture there. And they won 8 games. So who's to say they can't improve on that? They can't build on that. The defense was playing better as well. So we'll see. Now, again, are they going to give the Chiefs some fits? Yeah, but this is the Chiefs' division to lose. And I don't see any of the teams that are in this division. I don't see any of these teams really stacking up against the Chiefs, at least in 2024. Because you got the Chargers, who are kind of rebuilding. You still got Herbert, of course. And, Justin Herbert and Patrick Mahomes have played in some great games over the years. And Herbert's kind of been on the losing end for the most part. But, they're kind of retooling. I think the Chargers are probably the second-place team right now. Them and the Raiders are probably battling it out. And then the Broncos, I think, are probably going to be the last-place team. But that's kind of how I see it right now. And let's see what the Raiders do at quarterback. Like I said, I think what's probably going to end up happening is you draft the quarterback and then Gardner Minshew is probably going to start, or at least Gardner Minshew and AidanO'Connell are going to battle it out, and then the rookie quarterback's going to sit. So again, that's just how I see it, but I could be wrong. But now let's kind of get into what Maxx Crosby had to say. So Maxx Crosby on the defensive side of the ball, he is the best player on the Raiders defensively. And he's fully recovered from a knee injury and is feeling better as ever as he enters his first full season under head coach Antonio Pierce. Crosby expressed optimism about his recovery and conditioning, stating that he smashed his conditioning test and feels better than ever, despite dealing with a knee injury throughout the 2023 season. So he was playing hurt. Crosby had a standout year, setting career-high marks in sacks. He had 14.5 sacks, 90 tackles, and 23 tackles for loss. He earned his 3rd Pro Bowl nod and was named second-team All-Pro. He played in all 17 games despite needing frequent medical attention for his knee and ongoing knee and hand procedures in the offseason. Now fully healthy, Crosby looks forward to playing alongside new defensive tackle, who I talked about yesterday, Christian Wilkins, but emphasized the importance of hard work over potential. Crosby acknowledges that games aren't won in free agency and stresses the need for him and Wilkins to put in the work together to achieve success on the field. With the 2024 draft approaching, there may be further additions to the Raiders' defensive front, but having a fully healthy Crosby bodes well for the team's chances for the upcoming season. And I wanted to just look at the direct quotes from Crosby himself. And he said, recovery and rehab has been incredible. I just did my conditioning test last week and smashed it. I'm feeling better than I ever have. So it's been an incredible offseason for me so far. I was definitely banged up. My knee was an issue, but I was able to play. I definitely don't want to do that again and go through that, draining it multiple times every week. It was a pain. But we made it through, so it was even more motivation when people were like, shut it down, shut it down, shut it down. And I was like, no, I'm not like everybody else, to be completely honest. I just had to keep moving. And then he talked about, pairing up with Christian Wilkins. Potential is one thing, action is another for us. It's about the work. We have a ton of work to do. Me and Christian haven't played a single snap together. We haven't done a single rep together. At the end of the day, we got a ton of work to do. I've said it many times, Christian is a great player. I've been watching Christian, seeing his career from afar for a long time. I'm fired up to get to work with him. And yeah, you also got the draft coming up. We'll see what the Raiders do. I mean, they could go quarterback, or maybe they address a position on defense. I think that's definitely what you're probably going to end up seeing, is you're going to see them draft a quarterback, but you're also going to see them, kind of go heavy on the defensive side of the ball in this draft. I feel like that's what they have to do. Again, maybe I don't know, did they make any other running backs? Oh, wait, actually, they did sign, I think they signed Alexander Madison. So they signed him to go along with Zamir White. So maybe we'll see if they draft a running back in the later rounds. But I think that's probably what they're going to end up doing, because at receiver, I think they're fine. Maybe they draft one later for depth. But I think for me, what their needs is probably quarterback, and then on the defensive side of the ball, maybe they address some things there as well. Maybe guys, they address corner, possibly. Maybe they could also, address the offensive line, Probably see them draft a lineman maybe. But, yeah, I mean, I expect the Raiders to continue to be an improved team in 2024. Again, I'm not really looking at them as a playoff team. Could they hang around and maybe, fight for a wild card spot? I mean, it's definitely possible. But I think this is going to be another building block year for them. And then maybe in 2025, you might see this team really, be a legit contender. Well, at least a playoff contender. Because, again, they got the pieces, defensively. Again, Maxx Crosby, you added Christian Wilkins offensively. You like the receivers they got. So they got some building blocks. And I think this, again, is going to continue to be this might be a building block season here. And then 2025, you might really see things take off. But, again, I could be wrong. That's just my opinion. But, again, I think they'll give the Chiefs fits again. But it's the Chiefs' division to lose. I think they're going to win this division pretty easily in 2024. But who knows? So, but, again, you got to like that the Raiders, they kept Antonio Pierce, and they didn't try to bring in someone else. They didn't try to, bring back John Gruden or something like that. No, the players wanted Antonio Pierce. They loved playing for him, and they really responded to him when he took over because they played better. And, I mean, I know they gave up, but they also, they dropped 60 points on the Chargers. So they really like playing for Antonio Pierce. And on the other side, the Chargers really did not like playing for Brandon Staley. That's why he's gone. But I just wanted to throw that in there too. So, yeah, I mean, we'll see what the Raiders do. But I think if you're a Raiders fan, you got to be optimistic about the direction that the team is going in. And let's see what they do in the draft. So, now, with that being said, again, let me know what you guys think about these two headlines here. What do you expect from Davante Adams and Maxx Crosby going into 2024? I mean, Davante Adams, I think, still has good years left in him. He's going to continue to be productive. And with Maxx Crosby, I mean, now you got Christian Wilkins there on the defensive line. That's only going to help him. And, now he seems to be fully healthy. So, expect him to have a good year as well. But let me know what you guys think about the Raiders and what you think they're going to end up doing this season. So, when we come back from our final break of the show, we're going to talk about Daniel Jones and the New York Giants. So, he did address the media, talked about his rehab and where he's at currently. So, we'll talk about all that when we return from our final break of the show. So, for one final time today, stick around and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.